Hello and welcome, everybody out there in Union Arena land. It's been a minute since I made any content talking about the regionals, but hey, we just had Orlando happen, and it looked to be a fantastic little thing. So let's go over the top 16 breakdown and talk about some of the decks and talk about the interviews that I personally am most excited about coming this week. So I worked very diligently, and a lot of other people worked diligently trying to gather up the top 16 deck lists. We managed to find the majority of them. We don't have specific lists from all of them thus far, but luckily I'm buddies with quite a few of the people, and some of them have reached out to me as well, saying that they want to talk about their decks. So we have managed to get many of them. Now, a handful of these decks I am going off of the word of other people that are trusted within the community, but that does not mean that it is guaranteed. So there may be some changes and shifts based off of people's placements and other things like that. So let's just start talking about it. And well, I want to give a little shout out to Xburst because Xburst just went to their version 3 update recently, and it was so easy for me to put this list together after I knew what everybody was doing and knew what everybody was piloting. And it turns out you can actually run tournaments now through this. I found that out while I was clicking through everything. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So everybody doing locals, post your stuff on Xburst. Everybody wants to see it. Everybody wants to be hyped for it. But let's go over the meta breakdown, shall we? So our top 4 decks, which is of course what everybody is most interested in, was Red Kenshin. Who could have saw that coming? Purple Saito, which I mean, most people who've been testing know that that's probably the top contender in our format right now. A Sukuna deck that I am authentically very, very curious how that got up there. And a Toshi Kenpachi list. So our top 4 seemed incredibly diverse, and that is very good for the format. That means despite there was being a large representation of Kenshin decks in our format, we still got to enjoy looking at many different decks performing well into it and against it and other decks. So it is very good to see that we have such incredible diversity. And as soon as we jump into the top 8, the diversity shrinks quite a bit, right? We end up seeing that we have 3 Purple Saito decks, 2 Toshi Kenpachi decks, and still only 1 of these Sukuna and Red Kenshin decks. I think going into this format, everybody knew Red Kenshin was the deck to beat, and so everybody tech their decks against it. Everybody prepared themselves appropriately, which is very good. That shows a strong, healthy meta. When you know that there is a top-tier deck, and you go, okay, I'm going to make sure I can beat that deck no matter what I'm playing, that is very good. And I think that shows how strong some of these other IPs in the game really, really are. We have still the one Yuji, and then the only Roy. This is pretty surprising. That Roy deck list, it is one of the decks I hope we will be going over in the near future, but we will see. And as soon as we jump into the top 16, yeah, we see Purple Saito being the majority of the representation. We have 3 Kenshin decks. I screwed up when I was filling out the list and what they had and everything. There's 3 Red Kenshin decks. And 2 Kenpachi Toshi decks as well. And then the representation goes to 19 others. But there's also a Mina here. So that is really interesting. We got to see a whole bunch of these different decks, and the format seems fantastic. I mean, like, here's the basic deck we have, yada yada. We see that, okay. But looking at this, I mean, we have a fantastic setup. We have Ming, who, I mean, I play with him. Shout out to Rumble Rama. He plays over there all the time. Semra, I haven't seen over there very often, but I know he's probably in that server. Zenryo, also Rumble Rama. Orion, Pepito, if you ever touched Rumble Rama, you know Pepito. Artsy Spagardi, he's a buddy. He's a buddy of mine. I'm so happy he didn't register what he promised he was going to. Creamy, another buddy. Gutless Mist, another guy I've played with here and there. And everybody else on this list is just like people in the community who play the game. So it looks like we have a fantastic showing. Purple is the majority of the representation, and I am going to be interviewing, I believe, Pepito about his list. I may be able to get in contact with Will Ewing. That'd be good if I can talk to him. I am probably going to be scheduling an interview with Ming as well. I'm very interested to see his placement. Zenryo, same thing with him. And Artsy, I have to interview him. And Creamy. And Gutley. this top 16 looks fantastic, everybody. Like, look at all of these amazing decks that we're playing against. This is awesome. Now, let's move on past all of this and go over some basic deck breakdowns, shall we? So this is first place, and we have Senro. Now, one thing I noticed about his deck compared to many of the others is, let's move my face, shall we? Wait. Lock. All right, cool. Yeah, move my face. Sorry about that, everybody. Very professional. So, something interesting I saw with his list compared to many of the others is that he is playing the 2-drop Kenshin. During your turn, it's only a 3k. On your opponent's turn, though, it's a 4k blocker, which is fantastic for the early game, especially in the mirror match. Not to mention, he is still holding on to the 4-2 tech. A lot of people I see have been teching into playing the Sanosuke variant of this deck, where you have Sanosuke's and Kenshin's, because one is a double damager that you're going to block and kills thing, and the other one never kills anything, but is really powerful cards. So that with the Nullify impact is pretty strong, but it seems like he just teched into, screw it, we're playing more Kenshins. He also has the Heaton Mitsuraya Ryu. This is one of those cards that I believe a couple of people have been talking about in different servers and everything, but nobody has really, I haven't seen anybody put it to use until him. This is a fantastic card. Rest one of your opponent's blockers. When you're a go wide deck that can attack 5 times in a turn, resting their things is fantastic. When this card is placed from your hand into your sidelight by an ability of a Red Kenshin, you draw a card. That is also huge. You pitch cards with this Kenshin here. When you swing with him, you can, I believe, pitch a card with this guy. Yep, on play. You have the 0-cost guy. No, not the 0-cost. The 1-cost searcher. You have a lot of different cards that have pitch to them. So that card seems very, very flexible, and I'm very excited to see how that all worked for him. But yeah, he's playing a very standard 12-4, but 9 2s. The Hitsuin we don't count as a 2-drop, obviously. And only 3 of the Kyorus. That's interesting. 3 and 3. Very interesting. I'm looking forward to asking him about all of that. Next up, we have Zanryo. This guy, I've run into him a few times in different formats and different things. He brought in the Roy Boy. Everybody's excited about Roy, right? And this seems to be a very stock Roy list. For anybody who might not be aware, I believe he was a very well-performing individual at one of the previous regionals. I can't for the life of me remember which one it was, though. There's so many of them that happen. And yeah, his list is very stock, very normal, which shows the pattern of consistency that this deck can provide for people. Roy is a deck that a lot of people have written off because when we get new IPs, Roy doesn't know how to specifically play against those decks, right? But when we are talking about playing against decks that you are familiar with, Roy is one of those decks where it is the opponent's objective to beat you. So I think it's really good that this deck is still in our format. It is a strong, powerful Control-S deck, and it shows that your familiarity with the deck is more powerful than following the meta and following the patterns that everybody else's have. Zanryo has been on this deck for so long, and his dedication to it shows what makes it so powerful, and I really respect that and really enjoyed that. But for his curve, yeah, his curve looks pretty standard. He only has 3 2s, but he has 6 1s, which compensates for that. And his threats are Roy, Riza, and 1 Ed. That is interesting. I'm gonna have to talk to him about that. Now, another deck that I am excited to talk about. This is Artsy Spagardi's list. Go to sleep, go to sleep. He is playing Mina in our meta. Now, if you've been in any of the servers with me, you know Mina is a deck, and Kikoro are decks that I have been hyping up. They are so good. Kikoro is one of the best go-wide spam decks that I have ever seen. Thanks to the Reno card and Kikoro herself and not having to run finals in it. Mina is a card, though, that is so incredibly powerful and versatile. I put this deck on par with probably the power of Toshi. You have the ability to have emergency impact when you need. You have protections from the Bako that makes it harder for them to kill Mina. You have the Bako on the back line that allows you to attack aggressively. You have the Reno that can play the Bako, attack aggressively. You can attack from the back line, which is really hard for most decks to interact with. It is just a strong, powerful deck that really puts the pedal to the metal, but has that Mina at the top end to be able to go, all right, rest that thing, and we're going to smash into you and see what happens. So, really nice to see this deck performing so well. His ratios are very different from the decks that I've seen. But, I mean, clearly this should probably be the standard going forward. He played fantastically. One of the powers of this deck, though, is that it has all of the triggers. 44 triggers. Yeah, it's on par with Toshi. But, like, look at this. It's draw, it's get, it's active, it's right. Like, you have good diversity amongst draw and active. And I think in our current meta, it is very important to have both in your deck. Draw triggers used to just be like the best triggers you can ever have, but with Red Kenshin everywhere and Saito everywhere, it's really, really hard for you to survive this game if you don't hit an active trigger on those big push turns. So having that good split, I think, is going to be fantastic for this deck. So shout out again, Artsy. Really, really happy for you, buddy. Congratulations. I know I meme on you all the time and make fun of stupid things like Sukuda, but you're fantastic, dude. It's awesome. Congratulations. And then the last list that I have been able to get. This is from our 15th place, The Real Anti-Hero. We have never talked before yesterday when I got to message him on Facebook, and then he added me on Discord, sent me all of his stuff. And yeah, he is playing an untraditional looking Toshi Kenpachi list. So right now, if you've been playing this deck at all, you know that a lot of people are on the one-drop Toshi plan. You have a large influx of ones and zeros so that you have a good early game push-up, and then your stuns, double damage impacts can just close out the games against your opponent or force them into bad blocks. He seems to have moved away from that and instead is relying on the sheer card advantage and power of each individual card to be able to push and win. And he has 2 Shinjis in this list. I really like this card. I've been struggling to find a way to make it fit into my decks. On play, give one of your characters, because everything's a 13 core card, impact until end of turn. That is super powerful when you have cards like this Kenpachi that pushes up, and more or less it always swings as a 4K. You have this one. Is it +1? It is +1 until end of turn. So yeah, if this one is already in play, you have your damage 2, give it impact 2, damage 2, your opponent's pretty much just taking that too. Like, they're kind of screwed, right? Or you give it to your Toshi, or if you're in a go wide situation against your opponent, you have any number of situations where that is really powerful. So I like the fact that he put that in there. And once again, showing the power of having a good split between active and draw triggers. That is really good. He is playing many more triggers than most people are right now. He is at 48 with this deck. His only not trigger in the deck is the 2/4/1 Kenpachis. I'm going to be really interested to learn why he went with only 2 of this card. I think this card is busted. And it's probably the answer is going to be because triggers. Also, he has the Sanjins in here, so it may also be a situation where he couldn't get his hand on all of the Kenpachis, or he had to split with a teammate. I don't know. We're going to talk to him, and we're going to figure all of this out. But that has been the breakdown of all of this. Very exciting top 16 that we have here. A lot of good, strong decks, a lot of deck diversity. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and look out for the next video. I'm going to be interviewing many different players that were in the top 16. And if anybody who I have not messaged already is in the top 16, message me. I have the same name on Discord. You can just add me. Same icon that I have here on YouTube. You can find me easily. And if you're top 32 with a spicy deck, especially add me and shoot me that information, because I would love to know more about what is just barely kept out of the top 16. Thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.